Charles Fenner, president of the association, presented the monument to Mayor William Behen, who, as a young officer in the Washington Artillery, had surrendered with Lee at Appomattox. Fenner, who was never lost for words, used the occasion to link Louisiana to the Lee myth. Louisiana is entitled to a full share in the glory of Lee, her sons illustrated by her valor every field on which his fame was won. President of the Association of the Army of Northern Virginia and future Governor Francis T. Nichols assured Lee's daughters, "The blood of Louisiana was poured out on 100 hills and plains of Virginia, but they had done it willingly for Robert E. Lee and for duty." Alexander Doyle was 27 years old the year of the unveiling, and though he lacked the talent of an Augustus St. Gaudens, he was extraordinarily prolific. One newspaper claimed that, at 33, he had done more public monuments than any other sculptor, and was producer of more than a fifth of those standing in the country. Scion of a wealthy family in Steubenville, Ohio, Doyle was taken by his parents to Italy, where he was raised to be an aesthete, studying music, painting, and sculpture. After 2 years in the States to finish high school, he resumed his studies in sculpture in Italy, returning in 1878 to start a business in New York City. And it was a business. Doyle's family owned a limestone quarry in Indiana, and he parlayed his family's connections in limestone, granite, and marble into commissions for sculptures. He would go on to produce 5 major works in New Orleans. Doyle's Lee, on close inspection, leaves the viewer cold. As a work of art, it does not move or invoke. Stolid and phlegmatic, it is not the kindly Mars Robert of hagiographers. It clearly lacks the technical virtuosity of Doyle's other works, such as the bronze statue of Albert Sidney Johnston, located at the Army of Tennessee Tumulus and Metairie Cemetery. It also lacks the profundity of his elegant marble sculpture of Margaret Howery, or the majesty of his equestrian statue of Beauregard, which graced the entrance of City Park until 2017. Yet, high on his perch, General Lee had an aesthetic. The effect was more totemic and theatrical than artistic. Doyle's Lee was coolly poised to face another Yankee invasion with his arms folded. Facing north, the statue projected the defiance that was essential to the Lost Cause myth. And while New Orleans begged credulity as a Confederate city, the idea of the monument dedication by urban elites was to leave no doubt that New Orleans had come to rival Richmond as a bastion of Confederate civic ideology. According to the young scholar Joseph L. Henderson, as a general rule, it can be said that the need for hero symbols arises when the ego needs strengthening. New Orleans had undergone a double humiliation, military defeat, and federal occupation from 1862 to 1877. Along with the rest of the South, Confederate veterans and partisans turned to the Lost Cause as a palliative. The narrative turned into a catechism. Southern valor and heroism were to be celebrated. Secession was about a constitutional disagreement, with the South defending its right as a sovereign state and slavery a non-issue. In his own life, Robert E. Lee preferred to obliterate the marks of civil strife, regarding memorials, but became the patron saint of the Lost Cause. As a symbol, he assuaged Southern guilt and gave hope to the vanquished. He held a mirror up to the South, and later to the whole country, of a civilization lost only to be replaced by Gilded Age plutocrats and the avarice that defined the era. It was not a coincidence that the dedication took place on George Washington's birthday. By the 1880s, Southern apologists aggressively attempted to link the Confederacy to a national mythology through the Lee persona. Lee's connections to Washington were legitimate, since his father was the Revolutionary War hero, Light Horse Harry Lee, who was a favorite of the commander-in-chief, and Lee the son married Mary Custis, the step-great-granddaughter of Washington. That Lee took up arms against the United States was a mere technicality. In a great example of Gilded Age legerdemain, the Confederate cause became patriotic, and Lee, as Kirk Savage has argued,